You ever wonder what happens when your homeowners association just breaks its own rules? Well, today we're going to dive into a real-life case where one homeowner took on her entire condo board. And trust me, the outcome reveals a whole lot about the power you might actually have in your own community. So let's set the stage. In one corner, we have Donna Bischoff, a homeowner, and in the other, the Country Hills West Condominium Association. It is a classic David versus Goliath story, really. But instead of slingshots, the weapons here are the community's own bylaws. You know, those legally binding rules everyone agrees to, and state law. And really, that's what this all boils down to. These communities, they're built on a foundation of shared rules, right? But what happens when one side, in this case a homeowner, believes those rules have been completely thrown out the window? Well, Ms. Bischoff's believed that's exactly what happened, and she decided she wasn't just going to sit back and take it. Now, she didn't just write an angry email. Nope. She filed a formal petition with the Arizona Department of Real Estate, and in that petition, she laid it all out, alleging that her condominium association, her HOA, had committed multiple violations of its own rules and state law. Her case really rested on three big claims. First up, a required annual meeting that just never happened. Second, election records that were basically being kept under lock and key away from her. And third, a sudden, pretty suspicious ban on write-in ballots right before an election. Let's break these down one by one. So first, that missing meeting. Look, Arizona state law is crystal clear on this. It says an association shall hold a meeting at least once each year. It's not a suggestion. It's how homeowners get a voice. But in 2019, the meeting was scheduled, then pushed to December, then delayed again and again until it finally happened in January of 2020. So for the entire calendar year of 2019, nothing. Crickets. Ms. Bischoff argued that's not just a delay, that's a flat-out violation of the law. Okay, the second issue was all about transparency. After a 2018 election, Ms. Bischoff just wanted to see the records, the ballots, the envelopes, the whole shebang. The HOA said no. But again, the law is super specific here. All that stuff has to be kept and made available for homeowners to look at for at least a year. I mean, it's a basic check on the whole system, right? And the third allegation, this one really gets to the heart of democracy in these communities. Right before the 2019 election, the board just suddenly banned all write-in candidates. That's a huge deal. It directly limits who homeowners can vote for. And the weirdest part, the community's own bylaws were totally silent on the issue, and the same board had allowed write-ins just 2 years before. It really looked like they were just changing the rules of the game mid-play. All right, so every story has two sides. We've heard the complaint, now let's pivot to the defense. At the hearing, the president of the HOA board, a guy named Doug Meyer, he took the stand to try and explain all this. So what was the HOA's story? Well, the board president testified that, yeah, the 2019 meeting got delayed, but it was just to reprint ballots without the write-in option. And those missing records from 2018, he claimed there were no official records to show, because an official election never actually happened. His entire defense, for pretty much everything, hinged on one single word: quorum. He argued they didn't have enough homeowners participate to make the vote legally valid. Now that quorum argument, it almost sounds like a decent legal defense, right? If there's no quorum, there's no official election, so maybe the rules about keeping records don't apply. But then, under questioning, the board president revealed something that completely changed the game. He admitted the association hadn't achieved a quorum, hadn't held a single valid election in 20 years. 20 years. Let that sink in for a second. This wasn't some one-off problem in 2018. This was a systemic, 2-decade-long failure. It meant the board had likely been operating without a proper mandate from the homeowners for longer than some of them had probably lived there. This admission, it was an absolute bombshell that just blew the HOA's defense to pieces.
So with all of the testimony in, including that jaw-dropping admission, what did the judge decide? Let's get to the verdict.
The decision was a total wipeout. I mean, a complete rout. On the issue of the missing annual meeting, the judge found the HOA was in violation. On hiding the election records, violation. On banning write-in ballots without any authority, you guessed it, that was a violation too. It was a clean sweep for the homeowner. And the judge's final order, well, it left absolutely no room for doubt. It stated, simply and powerfully, that Donna Bischoff's petition was to be upheld on all issues. This was a complete, total, undeniable victory. And of course, a verdict like that comes with consequences. First, the judge ordered the association to finally hand over all the records Ms. Bischoff had asked for from that 2018 election. And they had to do it fast, within just 10 days. And second, the HOA was ordered to pay Ms. Bischoff back for her filing fee. That's $1,500, paid directly to her. This basically made her financially whole for having to bring the case in the first place. So, what a fascinating story, right? But what's the big takeaway here? Why does this one case in Arizona matter to anyone living in a planned community, anywhere in the country? Let's break down the lessons.
This case really shines a light on a few key things. First, your community's bylaws, they're not just suggestions. They are legally binding documents. Second, state laws often give homeowners powerful protections that can be even stronger than your local rules. Third, for any board out there, following procedure and keeping good records is not optional. But I think the most important lesson is this. One person, armed with knowledge of the rules, can absolutely hold a much larger organization accountable.
And that leaves all of us with one final and I think crucial question to think about. Donna Bischoff won because she knew the rules maybe even better than the very people who were supposed to be enforcing them. So the real takeaway is this. Do you